Hi, my name is Joy Campbell, and I'm the Senior Director of Research and Development at ABC. Today I'm going to talk with you today about the dry application part of the presentation, spray-dried animal plasma, an untapped, functional, and palatable protein ingredient for the wet and dry pet food. First of all, I'd like to start off with industry challenges. As we think about the challenges that we've experienced, COVID has disrupted the meat industry, causing shortages and supply issues. Many pet parents even are still concerned about the DCM and the plant proteins in pet foods. Along with this, high protein products often struggle to balance the calcium and phosphorus levels to have the space. So as we think about the problem, the raw material availability and the global protein shortage. The market situation is that pet food shortages are on the rise as supply chains are stressed by the COVID situation. There's a crumbling infrastructure and other supply chain issues are affecting the protein manufacturers. What this is rolling into is unprecedented decreases in availability of protein, plus rapidly increasing prices, which for pet food manufacturers is leading to manufacturing challenges. The other part of this is the demand. Some of the stats from the pet food in Europe is the market numbers are up. They're up a lot, and there's the dogs and cats, as you can see, the total numbers are continuing to rise. So the numbers are up 102 since 2017. The state of protein in the pet is still fat. The protein is still king. Pet parents are wanting high quality levels of quality proteins in their products. Also, more pet parents are requesting proteins be primarily from meats versus plants. And pet parents are reporting more and more issues with chicken allergies, perceived or real, and are asking for products without chicken. So with that, the other part of it that people are focusing on is sustainability. Focusing on sustainability of both ingredients and the packaging. Co-products from the meat industry are sustainable. Plasma is one of these products that can help support brand sustainability initiatives. For real meat formulas, plasma is a high protein that can come from an animal source. It's a 75+% protein ingredient, and it allows formulators to increase overall protein with an ingredient that doesn't impact the yield, like high water meats or organs, etc. It's helping in these areas. So as we look at kind of the formulation benefits, we break it down as under 30% protein formulation you're going towards, 30 to 35% protein, and 35% plus protein. In all diets, it's going to help to extend the protein due to the shortages. It's helping extend that protein part. It's also boosting overall protein ranges. It's a high protein ingredient. Reduces protein costs from these high price meats if needed. It could also help with reducing the needs for plant proteins and be able to replace some of those plant proteins with an animal protein source. Reduces the ash, calcium as it's a low ash product, potentially can remove salt from the label, and also in palatability, which we'll talk about later on palatability versus plant proteins. With that said, as we think about the benefits of plasma and high protein foods, as I mentioned, it's allowing more room in the formula for other ingredients. And we're going to cover how well it works in the extruder, talk about the quality of the kibble, and then it can be cost neutral. So let's focus in on the manufacturing side first. Looking at plasma and use in feed technology, we've done extrusion runs where we've included plasma up to 5% of the diet. These are kibbles that are formulated to about 28% crude protein. And we didn't see many differences. Texture, averages durability was about 97.5, hardness was a 22.9, and then also the toughness was a measurement that we had of about 4,193. If we look at comparing it to other sources of protein, we're comparing to chicken meal, salmon, lamb, potato, pea protein, and then showing the different levels of plasma, either 2.5 or 5%. The salmon, lamb, potato, and pea protein were all included, replaced at 5% is what those levels were, and so you're replacing it pound for pound. The chicken meal was the base, but then replacing like a 5% of that if comparing to that. But essentially what we saw was no differences noted in kibble durability. So it's not affecting the processing and being very similar to all other protein sources, ranging from anywhere from 97 to 97.8% in durability. So I'd like you to think about plasma as a protein solution for you. The protein ingredient benefits, or the plasma benefits we talked about, is it's a high protein, low ash product. We're going to cover a little bit on the palatability with dogs and cats. It's label friendly. And also think about the benefits on the health side too. There's a lot of background on that. To highlight a little bit on the function, the biological function, I'd like to talk about digestibility. On the digestibility side, this is a paper that was published by Quigley et al. In 2004. And what we're looking at here is digestibility of the diet when plasma was added to both the premium and super premium diets. So we had one experiment, which we got control 1 and plasma 1, and we're looking at dry matter, crude protein, or fat digestibility. We see an increase in dry matter digestibility with experiment 1, which would be more of a premium. Experiment 2 of a super premium, still having an increase in dry matter digestibility. We see a bigger response in experiment 2, a 4.2% improvement in crude protein digestibility, and also in fat, seeing some improvements, numeric improvements in the digestibility. So again, more of a biological function and helping with the diets too. Along with that, we followed both the grams of feces, essentially the fecal output, and also the grams of feces per 5 days on a dry matter basis. So on an as-is basis, if you've got an improvement in digestibility, you're going to have a reduction in fecal output, which is what we see on an as-is basis with both experiment 1 and experiment 2, and the same also on a dry matter basis. So essentially what we saw was less stool output, which is improvement from the digestibility, and also firmer stools for the owner. Now I'd also like to focus now thinking about replacing other proteins. This is some work where not only, you can put it in the formula, it can formulate in, it helps with the ash size, it's a low ash product, but how does it affect palatability? That is the take home. Is it going to affect the overall outcome? So we did some tests where we're looking at it in dogs. First I'm going to cover is palatability. It was improved versus a pea protein, so a plant protein. It was neutral with a potato and chicken meal. But essentially what you have is an opportunity. The fact that it was even neutral is you can replace with other proteins that are maybe less desirable. So let's focus in on first a high protein diet. This was a very high protein diet. We're replacing the pea protein. So we had a high pea protein source. We're replacing a portion of the high pea protein with pork plasma. On the left side, we've got the intake ratio. We're looking at a dog trial. It was 20 dogs, 2-day trial. In the intake ratio, we see a numeric increase with the combination of the pea protein and pork plasma. And then on the right-hand side, we're looking at the choices, the percent number of days the dogs consumed more of that. And this is defined as a difference of 20 grams. When they were presented with bowl A versus bowl B, did they eat more than 20-gram difference between those? And what we see here is yes. With the addition of pork plasma with the pea protein, they did see an increase in choosing to eat more of that diet compared to the high pea protein versus having no choices. If we looked into the next thing, now we're comparing beef plasma versus chicken meal. 5% chicken meal versus 5% being replaced to the chicken meal with 5% beef plasma. Intake ratio numerically was down a little bit, not big differences. But then again, if we look at the choices, numerically up a little bit of, again, eating more on the days that they chose to eat more of the beef plasma. Pretty much equal with the chicken meal, and again, no choices. We go into the pea protein. Here we see same type of situation with the dog trial of 20 dogs. We see an increase in the intake ratio and also seeing now an increase in the choice, choosing to eat more of the beef plasma diet versus the pea protein. Move into cats. Cats is another area. Again, you want to make sure that the diet is working. If you're including these proteins, how well does it work? One of the things that we looked at is replacing spray-dried liver protein inside the cat kibble. We're not putting it as a coating. It's essentially when spray-dried liver can be incorporated into the diet, it helps with palatability, but then how does plasma compare? Is it similar? Is it not? So that's one of the things we're looking at. And also we looked at different on the cat diets, looking at different palatant levels. We saw that we could reduce some of them, but again, not recommending it as a palatant on the outside, but putting it inside the kibble and helping with the palatability. So this is kind of a summary of multiple studies that we've done. On the top left, we've got uncoated kibbles. We see an increase, a consumption ratio of 2.6 to 1 when comparing 2% plasma to 2% spray-dried poultry liver. We then, instead of just having uncoated kibbles, we put a premium digest on the outside, 3% on both of them. And again, we had a 1.14 to 1, still having a numeric increase in consumption with the plasma. On the bottom left, we see a 3% super premium digest put on both. And again, 2.5 to 1, seeing a nice increase in the palatability with plasma versus spray-dried liver. And finally, the last thing we did is taking the kibbles and saying, okay, let's put the control and have 3% of a super premium digest on the outside. But then with the plasma one, only putting on 1.5% of the plasma on the outside. And again, we are seeing we're able to reduce it. We still had a 2.7 to 1 increase in intake and being able to have a higher intake with the plasma diet versus spray-dried liver. This is the same study we looked at. We're looking at that intake ratio, but then also looking at the choice. And in the cats, the choice in this situation was a difference of 10 grams. So were they choosing, when they had the bowls A versus B in front of them, were they choosing to eat more of that diet? And here it's a very clear 70% of the time they were choosing to eat the more of the diet with the 2% plasma versus the 2% poultry liver, and also even it was down around 10 to 12%, and then also when they couldn't make a choice, when they weren't eating a difference more than 10 grams. So again, a very clear picture of being able to show the reduction of the digest and yet still having a good palatability compared to 2% poultry liver. So in summary, plasma and pet food allows for more room in the formula for other ingredients. As we've seen, as we've talked about what's happening through the extrusion and the production, seeing similar durability, the texture, etc. So the kibbles are looking good. We're able to maintain the quality of the kibble, and then along with it, having good palatability. Seeing the palatability compared to plant proteins in dogs, having improvements there, and then also comparing in cats compared to the spray-dried poultry liver and having a nice improvements in palatability.